The Osmonds and Crazy Horses. Mark Riley here, whilst over there we've got Bobby Hughes. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you kindly, yeah. Enjoyed the show tonight, and I'm going to continue to do so now in your company.
Excellent. I don't know whether you can see, but I put the big light on tonight because I've been struggling with some of the small print.
Ooh.
So, I'm just learning from past mistakes, basically.
Do you wear reading glasses at all, Bobbert?
No, I don't, but I need glasses for far away things.
Well, you need them for close-up things as well, by the sound of it. I mean, I'm a doctor, but I'm not an optician.
Oh, mate, I take umbrage at that because it's a light issue, not a sight issue. But anyway,
Listen,
we'll discuss that next time I see you.
Mate, you can take issue with whatever you like. You're about 60, 70 miles away from me.
Very true. So we're looking at disc here, 14th of October, 1972. It was only 6p in those days. It starts out, they blow their own trumpet. It says on the front page, 100,000 top people are already joining the queue on Wednesdays for Disc, Britain's brightest and best music paper. And there are more and more people joining every week. 100,000, that's how many copies of Disc were bought last week to make us the fastest growing paper in the business, blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of competition, wasn't there? Enemy was changing, Melody Maker 2, Sounds. But Disc, well, they had colour pictures for a start.
Yeah, and they used to put posters in the middle and all that kind of stuff, didn't they? I mean, as we know, the Enemy was like a pamphlet only 5 years before, wasn't it? Just That's slowly growing and more news and people becoming more interested in interviews with musicians rather than just weird little tittle-tattle stories like gossip, which used to take up a lot of the earlier pamphlet kind of publications.
Definitely, and underneath that, we've just heard Crazy Horses said fans of the Osmonds are calling for information of the group's on the group's upcoming British tour. They've been jamming London's Mayfair Exchange and causing havoc among GPO workers. An estimated 1,000 calls have been received at any one time, says a group spokesman. They arrive in Britain at the end of October for their first British concerts, and it goes through the dates, including London's Rainbow, Birmingham Town Hall, and Manchester Free Trade Hall, which was a big deal.
Right, okay. I thought they did King's Hall in Bellevue, but right, that'll be right, I suppose.
All right, also in the news here, you've got Hawkwind broke the house record at Liverpool Stadium last weekend when 3,500 fans turned up for their concert with Brinsley Schwartz. The previous record was held jointly by Free and Led Zeppelin. Concert organiser Roger Eagle said he considered it the best value concert ever held in the stadium. Tickets were 70p. So two things here that sort of spring to mind. First of all, I was wondering whether this was the one that got taped for the Space Ritual album, but I did my research, Mark. Went on Wikipedia, and it was a couple of months after this, so it was December 72, but it was in the same, partly anyway, in the same Liverpool Stadium. But also Roger Eagles, who's such an interesting character, such a mover and shaker, wasn't he? First in Manchester, and then he moved to Liverpool.
Well, it was a Twisted Wheel, wasn't it, that he ran in Manchester, which is a legendary venue. And then he ran the legendary venue of my time when I started playing, which was obviously Eric's in Liverpool. Yeah. And then he came over here, and when I was a record plugger, Roger used to come into the offices of Tony Michaelides all the time just to pick records up to be played at the Manchester clubs that he had at that point in time, that he would promote. That would be the Internationals.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Hugely important figure in the Northwest. On the news here, despite BBC reports of a disappointing reception for the Partridge Family, London Weekend Television have bought the option on a new 13-week series of the American show that features pop idol David Cassidy. Screening begins next Saturday at 12 noon. London will be the only TV area to receive the show at first, but it's expected that other areas will buy the series later on. The BBC did screen 12 weekly shows from September 71 until December the 31st, but despite Bring Back David Cassidy petitions, refused their option for a further series, which was a mistake, as we know now, because the Partridge Family really, really took off big style.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I had a bit of a crush on Susan Day.
Did you? Who was was she the mum? I can't remember who she.
No, she wasn't the mum.
How old were you?
You scamp.
10. Right, okay.
No, it was a granny.
Okay. Oh, that figures. The row between the BBC and David Bowie's management changed complexion this week when it was discovered that Bowie's manager, Tony DeFries, wanted to charge the corporation £250 for a film clip showing Bowie performing John I'm Only Dancing. The Beeb had earlier turned down the film sequence intended for Top of the Pops, complaining it was not up to standard. In its place, they produced a biker sequence, which was aired at the end of September. A spokesman for Bowie this week described that film as irrelevant, meaningless, and bad. The sequence, shot by Bowie's organisation, featured Bowie, his band, and mime dancers on the Rainbow stage, but the corporation complained that it was dark and not very well synchronised. Okay, this is it's a Mick Rock film, wasn't it? He did Life on Mars, of course, and he did John and Only Dancing, I think, on a handheld camera, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty rickety, but I mean, we weren't getting much of Davy Bowie on Top of the Pops around that point in time, so we would have taken anything we could have, and we would rather have Davy Bowie being a bit sketchy and a bit badly edited than some people from Equity driving around on a motorbike.
I couldn't agree more. And Roy Wood's Wizard, Edgar Broughton, Kevin Ayres, Climax Chicago, and new band Babe Ruth are among the Mammoth lineup set to travel Britain next month as part of the Harvest Mobile Tour. The tour, due in November, gets its name from the massive air-conditioned coach in which the bands will travel to the 24 venues. It's intended that the groups will spend a day in every town en route, plugging the evening's concert. And besides the bands already mentioned, the Electric Light Orchestra, East of Eden, Barclay James Harvest, and Spontaneous Combustion make up the ambitious promotional tour of artists on the Harvest label. Concert prices will be limited to 50p, despite the size of the bill, and at each gig, 100 Harvest albums are being raffled, plus free stickers and posters, etc. The tour kicks off at Mile End Sundown on the 5th of November. It's going to be recorded live for a Christmas album, and the rest of the dates are as follows, it says, but no specific venues have been yet fixed. So, for example, it just says Scotland, December the 2nd. So this was news to me. Maybe we have covered this before, but this was news to me because this was a precursor, if you like, to I know package tours weren't new, but the idea of loads of bands on one label getting on a bus and travelling around like Stiff did famously in the late 70s.
Well, it was a Charisma tour as well, wasn't there, with Van der Graaf Generator and Genesis and Linda's Farm, which I didn't go to, but it's quite a famous tour. But it sounds like it would be a real loss, a financial loss. Really. So many bands going for 50 pence.
Yeah, absolutely. I also forgot to read out the first show, as I say, kicks off at Mile End Sundown. It says, and that night features a circus, an indoor firework display. So they must have been losing money hand over fist, I imagine, Mark.
Yeah.
Great to watch, though, I imagine.
Yep.
And in the news, Can, Germany's biggest rock group, have cancelled their British tour, due to have begun at the end of October. Lead guitarist Michael Caroli has been admitted to hospital with a ruptured appendix.
Oh, no.
They're about to reschedule.
Right. But
it does give us an excuse, doesn't it, to dip into Eggy Bamyasi.
It does, yeah. This is Vitamin C. Can and Vitamin C, Mark Riley and Bobby Hughes.
Disc, 14th of October 1972, America West Coast News page. Doesn't say who the author is here because it's quite a personal, sort of opinionated account. It says here, I'm really looking forward to the T-Rex concert, but not for the expected reasons. Touring with Marc and friends are the Doobie Brothers, whose latest single is a big hit over here. Listen to the music. It just seems such an incongruous bill, that, doesn't it? T-Rex and the Doobies?
Doesn't seem right, does it?
Not at all. Mark Bolan and his chums have been going over like a basket full of 6-month-old spam sandwiches during their current American tour, according to almost all reports. We're not even a little bit surprised by this, and we predict that T-Rex will never mean much in this country. While all of the really gigantic idols of America's teen sort of prepubescence of the last few years have been decidedly androgynous, they've all been much more clean-cut androgynous than Mark, whose appearance is a little bit too strange for the teen magazines. It says, goes on to say, by no stretch of the American imagination does Mark resemble the cute little boy next door in any town, USA. It was something I know we were discussing recently, wasn't it? But you would think T-Rex would have been perfect for the States, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, there was that real rivalry between Bowie and Bolan all the way through the careers, wasn't there, really? But at that point, they were just both edging around, and Bowie was getting further than Marc Bolan, wasn't he? And it just never kicked in for him.
Yeah, it didn't. So in the final column, actually, it says David Bowie should easily blow Marc and friends halfway back across the Atlantic, and Slade may well emerge the most enormous of the lot over here in the States. They're sufficiently image-laden to attract a lot of the same heavy intellectuals who dig Bowie, as well as hot and nasty enough to enchant the unwashed millions who will think Bowie's a little bit wanting in the right-on, rock-soft variety of heaviness department. Again, another band you would have thought absolutely perfect for the States, and Slade never made it either.
They didn't, no, they didn't.
On the letters page, more about the fact that Mark Boland's not going over well in the States. And this is Jay Petcher of rugby, who says a society that's degenerated from the brilliance of Dylan to the substandard mediocrity of David Cassidy and the Osmonds will be fortunate if in the future they can attract our major rock bands if this is the treatment they are to get. Hazel Morgan of London says, thanks for a most interesting article on Roxy Music the other week. Having read it and heard their excellent set on Radio 1's In Concert, I'm convinced they're the most exciting band in Britain. But will somebody please tell Brian Ferry that we do need Lindisfarne? I'd get musical indigestion on a diet of Roxy alone. They're brilliant, but you can have too much of a good thing. In fact, I'd have thought that Lindisfarne, with their folk roots and natural style, were closer to the real thing than Roxy, who surely can't be classified as simply a northeastern band. There's room in this business for both chance meeting and fog on the time, for sophistication and earthy good humour. Long live Roxy and Lindisfarne. They're both great. It says so. That's
a very strange letter, isn't it? It's like starting off really like saying Roxy Music are great, and then having a go at them because they're not Lindisfarne, and then kind of coming back round again.
I know. I'm guessing that was because there was an interview with Brian Ferry where he was asked about other northeastern bands, and maybe he didn't rate them very highly. That's just clutching at straws, perhaps.
Right.
And Ray Fox Cummings says, "Pardon me while I get on my hobby horse. I just can't understand it. After reading the reviews of Lou Reed's gig at the Edmonton Sundown last Friday, it seems hard to believe I was at the same concert. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a gig more. Lou's slowed down treatment of Waiting for the Man, White Light, White Heat and Lonesome Cowboy Bill gives them a stature they never had in the old Velvet Underground days, and the standard of this band's playing is incredibly good, even if the bassist's antics are a bit too grotesque." Doesn't say who that was. It possibly Les Hurdle, but is it pre-Herbie Flowers?
It would have been the Tots, wouldn't it? I think at that time, Lou Reed and the Tots. I'm not sure of the personnel, but I think that's the name of the band that was backing him anyway.
Okay, he says, I only hope that Oxford, Cambridge and Leicester will prove more appreciative than my colleagues. But what a time to see him.
Yeah, and you very kindly put in one of my favourite Lou Reed tunes anyway. Let's have it. Out of any record ever, or the best backing vocals on any record ever, then don't even bother trying, because it ain't gonna work. I'm Mark Riley, and that is Bobby Hughes in the Parallel Universe.
Well said, mate. We're looking at disc here, 14th of October 1972. These bands are on the road. You've got Emerson, Lake and Palmer at Liverpool Top Rank, Nazareth at Barnsley Civic Hall, Soft Machine at Birmingham's Belfry Hotel, Free at Red Car Jazz Club. 10 years after at Manchester Hard Rock. Hard Rock was a newish venue still, 72, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Focus at London University College, the Harvest Mobile Tour, as discussed earlier, at Somewhere in Plymouth. The Kinks at the Rainbow in London. You've got Alice Cooper at Green's Playhouse in Glasgow. Steppenwolf at Birmingham Alhambra. Flaming Groovies at Sundown Mile End. Lou Reed at Cambridge University. Lightning Slim at Southampton University. Thelma Houston at Wolverhampton Gaumont. And Pentangle and Whiz Jones at Glasgow City Hall. On the live review front, Ray Fox Cummings goes to see Mott the Hoople at Brighton Top Rank. He says, there was a great sense of occasion when I saw Mott at Guildford just a few weeks back. They were laying all their new stuff from the, at that time, unreleased Dudes album on an audience for the first time, and the gig was graced with the presence of both their new producer, David Bowie, and Lou Reed. By comparison, at Brighton last Wednesday, they seemed tired, and it's not surprising, for between times, they'd been working as hard as anybody. Music didn't suffer, but some of the zest of their act was missing. After so long on the road, who can blame them? Well, they were kind of going for it as hard as they could, couldn't it? It'd taken them so long to have this breakthrough, and they wanted to make the most of it.
Well, yeah, they were on the verge of splitting up, as we know. So, and it was it Suffragette City? Bowie offered them, and they turned it down. And then Bowie supposedly shaved his eyebrows off in a fit of pique because he couldn't believe they had the cheek. And then he went back with All the Young Dudes. They took it, and he immediately regretted it because it was such a great song.
Absolutely. It concludes it by saying All the Young Dudes really did owe a lot to Bowie's help with the backup vocals and isn't quite as good without him, but one of the boys is also a magnificent showpiece of the act. Whatever numbers among their present material Mott decide to drop from their stage act in years to come, they'll never be allowed to lose those two, which you can understand, and they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just very, very briefly, if you've got time, Jackie Wilson at the Rainbow, currently riding the national charts with I Get the Sweetest Feeling. He's been around since the late 50s, since his first single was written by Berry Gordy. He says, after a few minutes of musicianship from backing group The Sweetest Feeling, the man strolled on stage clad in a check jacket and green outfit, cigarette in hand, and launched into his classic Higher and Higher, packing professionalism and truly amazing power with some stunning choreography and a thoroughly relaxed stage presence. Phew. I'll tell you who else had a thoroughly relaxed stage presence.
Elvis Presley.
He did.
How did I guess? Right, okay.
Oh.
Well, let's play Burning Love by Elvis. I'll say thanks very much to you, mate, and everybody else involved in the programme tonight. Giddy's next, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Cheers, Bobbert.
Thank you, mate.
Bye, mate.
See you.
Prepare to exit the parallel universe.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
And shut the door on your way out.